We're back. Woo! We took a little hiatus, but we're now back. Today we're going to talk about the different things that we've read throughout the year, and then also talk about what were our favorite books. So let's go around the table. I'm Marcy.
I'm Lisa.
I'm Jennifer.
I'm Hayden.
And our special guest today is Hayden. He's going to have some very important things to talk about today.
No, I won't.
So.
No, I won't.
Yes, he will.
Don't listen to me.
Remember everything he says.
Write it down. It's very important.
Okay, so this is the...
What book?
What book?
What book? Hayden.
What book?
Bookcast. All right, so let's get started.
It's a good opening. First one out the gate for 2014.
Woohoo!
Yay.
Yeah, to a new year.
Okay, so I did go through crazily, right before you guys got here, all of my Amazon orders, my audible.com orders to see what I had actually read this year. And there was a lot of crap. I'll just say that right now. But there were some good things in there. And I'll kind of go through the chuff. So, I guess I can start with my list, or do you guys want to talk about what you...
Yeah, let's start with your list. So we're just going to talk about each one's kind of like what they read this year, what was awesome. And then after we all talk about what we've read, we're going to each give our top 5.
Yeah.
For the year.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be top 5 books that came out in 2013. It's just top 5 books that you read in 2013.
I gotta start. I
That's my
haven't.
list.
That's okay. I mean, I'm not going to list every last one of the books that I read, but I'll give you a few so you can just kind of see, I guess, a little what I read. I mean, I've read everything from Philippa Gregory, The White Queen.
I love Philippa Gregory.
And that was actually, I forget what that was. That was for one of our reading series. And I needed a
is it
historical.
like historical fiction?
I
And
think
I
that's the
decided to
one
try
we
it.
may not have completed.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the one I read the red tent for.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I didn't
So
finish my historical
I loved it though. I had never read her, but she was really great. So I've read her. I went to some of my go-to favorites like Orson Scott Card, Robin McKinley. A lot of sci-fi and fantasy on my list. And then I even added some new ones like Tananarive Due. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she does like horror sci-fi.
Oh.
So just kind of interesting.
Alien stuff?
No, I read this short story called The Lake.
Okay.
And it's really hard to describe. It's about this woman who goes to this town, and it has this lake. She lives in this house on this lake, and she's a teacher. And all of the folks from the town say, don't swim in the lake. You know something's bad's gonna happen. Don't swim in the lake. But she does anyway, and then somehow she just loves it. The water feels so great. And her skin is starting to itch, and she knows she's going through some type of change. And then she's like, she has this work she needs done on her house, and she's like, well, I'll just have some boys come over and like, fix up the house. Meanwhile, she's starting to feel hunger in weird places, and these boys are coming over, and it's all going to lead to a bad end with her and these boys and the lake.
Oh.
And it is kind of horrifying. But one of the interesting things was her best friend was, what's that woman's name? Who was that lady that, remember she married, she's like married her, she was sleeping with her little 12-year-old classmate or student.
Oh.
She was doing something bad. So
I
they
don't
bring it
know,
all
actually.
into,
Okay.
they bring that story into it. So that's that whole horror,
interesting.
how horror always makes you feel kind of icky a little bit. But it was really, really good. I won't tell you the ending. You probably figure it out.
I thought you were going, and I don't know why I would think that because it's not hard, but I thought you were going that she was like going to turn into a mermaid. Because I read somewhere that the next thing for like 2014 was mermaids. It's going to be like the big thing. I haven't seen any mermaid stuff.
Instead of like bows and arrows, it's mermaids.
Instead of vampires and
Vampires
yeah.
and werewolves.
Mermaids.
Does
Wouldn't
she
that be
even really
awesome?
have a thing? I don't think.
I don't know.
Still reeling from.
I want to see some mermaid stuff. So. Just putting that out into the universe.
All right, what else you got going on there, Marcy?
So I read Saving Grace, Lee Smith, The Cuckoo's Calling. I had this great series called, the whole series is called Wool. by Hugh Howey. I don't know if
Oh,
any of you
I'm
heard
reading
about
that
it.
right now.
It's a really great series. I can't read a lot of it. It's kind of depressing, but I love it. I'm hooked. I'm hooked. I think he's completely done, and I read the last book.
Oh.
So that was good. And then, of course, my guy, Neil Gaiman, The Ocean at the End of the Lane.
I read that.
Yeah. World War Z, blah, blah. I can just keep going on.
Well, my list is not as expansive. I don't know why. I really think the book club got me into reading again, which is awesome. So, I mean, there are a lot of book club books that I love. And, you know, some of them are up there in my favorites. But one book I really liked was The Fault in Our Stars.
It's good.
Outside of it being super sad and, of course, about cancer, kids having cancer, I really dug the way, like, the story was written. It was like a couldn't put it down for me. And then, let's see. I mean, I read the Modern Witch series by Deborah Geary, which I really liked. I think I talked about it kind of in the beginning of our podcast.
You did.
I really liked it. It was just, it got recommended to me. If you like Sookie Stackhouse series, then you like that. And of course, I think we have to say, Sookie. I read the last Sookie this year.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
very sad for me. And I don't know. I read some trashy novels recommended to me. Thank you, Tanya. One called Nantucket Nights, which I couldn't tell if it was a romance or if it was a thriller. It was kind of in between the two, and it never really got either direction. There was a couple sex scenes, and there was kind of like a unknown kill kind of
That was
thing.
supposed to be about, like, friends.
Yeah,
No?
I mean,
Nantucket
that's
Nights.
how it starts, right? The
Nantucket Nights.
the opening scene is about, you know, these friends who've been friends forever, and they're holding hands, and I don't know, on the beach, kind of. They're weird. It's strange. It was a strange book. It was a good, like, I guess that's as close as I can get to romance. Sorry, Marcy, I just can't do it. So once V.C. Andrews stopped writing, I just couldn't do it anymore. And then I think one of my other favorites that I read this year was, or one of the other books that I read this year that didn't quite make my favorites list was, I read Autobiography of a Face. So it's a memoir Lucy Greeley wrote, and I think I read it in the wrong order, but it was really just, I could not stop reading that book. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but
I think you mentioned it before.
well, I mentioned Truth and Beauty, which is her friend who wrote a book about their friendship. But Autobiography of a Face is Lucy Greeley, and she writes about, she had cancer when she was a kid in the jaw, and then now the cancer's gone and everything, but she keeps getting these surgeries on her jaw, and she literally loses that part of her face. So then she's just kind of living with it and kind of figuring it out, and she has this strange, like, childlike reaction to everything that's going on with her after multiple surgeries and chemo, years of chemo, and then she finally realizes that somebody said, oh, when Lucy had cancer, and she didn't even realize as a kid that she had cancer because nobody said cancer to her.
Really?
So it was a really interesting book, and I don't know, I really liked that book too. So I think that's it for my books that didn't quite make it on my top list. Although I did like, I was reading some more Cassandra Clark's City of Bones, City of Glass books.
I do have one of those from you that I should read. But aren't they a lot? There's a lot of them.
No, I think there's 4.
Oh, I guess that's not.
I mean, I think it's close to too many books for you in a series, but I think there's only 4
More
of
than
them.
a trilogy.
Yeah.
So I was very against the whole Divergent series because there's a lot of hype around it. I don't know why, I love hype. But my sister had it, so I was like, all right, fine, I'll read it. And I couldn't stop. It was so good. So I read all 3 of them. And I'm very excited for the movie because now I'm hooked. So I read that. Veronica Roth, who was at the book fair we went to. We didn't get to see her.
The Baltimore one?
Not the Baltimore one, the
okay.
Washington one.
So, yeah, but we didn't really...
We didn't see her, yeah.
Right,
So-
because we hadn't read the book by then. And I felt that we
Oh,
should
yeah,
at
yeah,
least
yeah.
read
True.
the author's book if we're going to actually
so
interview
good.
them.
I recommend those. I don't know why it's not on my top list, but whatever. I think because there's hype, so I feel like whatever. You should read it on your own anyway. I'm not going to recommend it because everybody else already is. I also read The Returned by Jason Motz, which it was interesting. Time was telling me about it, and it was just, from what she said, I was like, wow, I really want to know what happens next. But then you never really find out what happens, which really made me angry. It was like I like there to be complete. I want to know why.
Is it a
things
series?
happen.
It's going to be a series?
No, it's just the one. And it's these people come back for no rhyme or reason. They've been dead, however long they've been dead, it doesn't matter. They come back and they their families just like don't know what to do with them. Some are like happy, but then it's kind of looked down upon and people are getting freaked out about it. Rightly so. They come back the way whatever it was when they died. And so you never it just kind of goes through what it would be like if that would happen. You don't find out why. I read Forever, a novel by Pete Hamill, which I thought had an interesting premise as well.
That sounds like a romance.
It's not. Actually, you know what? It's about this guy who in, I don't know, a couple hundred years ago, whatever. He's in Ireland. He makes it to America seeking revenge. And if he stays on the island, he gets cursed. I don't know if you would call it a curse or whatever. But it's some kind of magic where if he leaves the island of Manhattan, he'll die. So as long as he stays on the island of Manhattan, he'll stay alive. So if he wants to die, he either has to leave the island or there's a very specific woman. So it's kind of a love story, but not really. Not really. So it's really interesting to like see the city change from, grass. There's no grass. Well, I guess there is, but to what it is today. So that was an interesting part of it. I listened to Damned by Chuck Palahniuk. He did a Fight Club.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
So I wanted to listen to something else from him, and it was interesting. It was just about this girl who she dies young, so it follows her into, I don't know if it's hell or purgatory. I think it's hell. And just like what hell is like, according to this guy, it was very weird. Why? What do you want to say about it?
I read something really interesting about him. It was
Yeah?
just like a little blurb on some news site. I was goofing around at work. And they were talking about authors who actually liked, when their book goes to movies, you always hear about the authors who hate, what the movies have done or what the directors done. But there are some that really like it. And he was one that really liked the changes they made to the Fight Club.
Oh, okay.
I guess I've never seen the movie, but I guess they kind of ramped up the romance part of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In the movie, and he liked it. I guess that was what he was going for. At least that's what he really liked it. So I thought that was kind of cool.
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he likes all his money. That's one thing I really liked about Charlene Harris. She's like, I don't care what they change. I'll take the money. I'll just keep taking all the money they want to give me.
Mm-hmm. In case you guys didn't hear that podcast, which was one of the first podcast we did last year, was the end of the Sookie Stackhouse series. You can go on our website,
www.whatbookbookclub.com.
Whatbookbookclub.com, right. You can go there and you can go to our first bookcast, and it's the end of the Sookie Stackhouse series, and we talk about how Jennifer and I met her. And
we're friends now.
Yeah, we're totally friends. And she said that they asked her, like, why vampires? Why wolves? Why did you do all these other things? She said, because that's what was popular. That's what they said would make money, and I like to make money. Very honest. It's pretty awesome.
So I also read The Ocean at the End of the Lane because Marcy loves Neil Gaiman. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll read it. And I loved it. It was like a fairy tale. It was just so, like, magical.
Yes.
And I loved it.
So Ocean at the End of the Lane is one of Goodreads' best books of 2013. It won the fantasy series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was, I think that was my second Neil Gaiman, because our first book club book was Nancy Boys. Mm-hmm. I definitely like this one better. That was kind of hard.
Didn't you read Good Omens?
I read Good Omens, but that's Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman, which I don't really count.
Oh, okay.
I guess it's like half, so I've read 2.5 Neil Gaiman books. But I liked the Nancy Boys, but it was a lot. I didn't feel like it was as, not that this one was sweet and soft, but I loved it for some reason. I felt it was more magical. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I liked it. I listened to The Book Thief because I've been hearing a lot about it. Marcus Zusak. I refused to watch the movie. I thought it was a good book. It was a Holocaust book. I know what happens now. I read the book. I'm done. I don't need to do it again. I'm going to check it off my list.
So just from that, I'm thinking it's probably not something I'm gonna read.
it
Sounds like it's going to be a sad ending.
Yeah, I guess, yep, it was a sad ending. It was interesting because when you read books about the Holocaust, it's usually about the people directly involved, people in the Holocaust or the whatever. This was about, like, people in the towns, just the regular people, they were going about their lives, not really kind of knowing what was going on, but kind of knowing. So that was interesting to see that. And that's what my historical fiction is kind of about. In the Garden of Beasts, I think it is. And it's sort of about a similar thing. They're in Germany at the time, and what they know, what they don't know. What it's like just to live there during that time. I'm going to include Gillian Flynn because we did Gone Girl, which we talked about, but I loved it so much that I read her other two books, Dark Places and Sharp Objects, which were really also twisted, but really good. Very dark, very twisted, good.
Did it have the twist-a plot?
Yep. She seems to have a thing. It's her thing.
Hey, if it works, right? If it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
I almost had Gone Girl on my top 5, and I took it off because we talked about it at book club, and I think we talked about Bookcast, but I've never had such a reaction. I still am not sure if I liked the book.
Yeah.
Right? Because I thought the book was one thing, and then in the middle, it completely changes to something else. And then at the end, you're like, there's no way that's the end of the book, and there's no more pages. And you're like, oh my God, what is going on?
Yeah.
This can't be the end of that book.
I'm excited for the movie. I want to see what they do with the movie. Ben Affleck is going to be so good.
Mm-hmm.
He just got cast for something else, too.
Batman?
Batman.
Which is really weird, I think. I don't think he'll make a very good Batman, but who knows.
Well, when Christian Bale got it, I don't think anybody thought he was going to be that good.
He
awesome. Rocked it.
Yeah, but this is Ben Affleck.
Twice.
He also played.
He did 3 times.
Did he play Daredevil?
I know that was horrible, but he has turned the corner on his acting.
I will watch him in anything.
Argo was really good.
It was fantastic.
Argo was really good.
Gone Baby Gone.
Weren't all those jokes going around as soon as he got cast as Batman?
Yeah.
Like with Matt Damon? Like, are you going to be Robin?
He's got to be Robin.
He's like, no, I'm not Robin.
You can't do that.
Dude, that would be so awesome.
So cheesy.
If they
want to make it a cheesy movie,
cameo.
If they went back to like this Silver Age or the Gold Age or whatever it's called with like the silly gray suit, the tights that he wears instead of like the armor.
Do that, yes, that would actually
and like
be
the big yellow belt,
right.
like then have him and Robin running around. It'd be hilarious. Make it a comedy almost.
Yes, that would work.
Like not so serious.
If it's a serious Batman, then
nice.
I think he can be serious.
Ben,
I'm rooting for you, Ben. Here's your fan.
We've had 3 serious Batmans. We don't need another serious Batman.
Did they say
everything is serious
out?
now? They've all turned the corner. Now they're all serious. Maybe not so much in the Marvel, like the Avengers.
Batman was always serious. He's not really a joker. Oh, look at all these puns we're throwing around.
Have you seen the one with like Val Kilmer?
He was serious, Val Kilmer.
And the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Those were all a little campy.
They're not serious at all.
Right.
And the Penguin,
especially when you watch them now.
Drew Barrymore, I loved her.
I mean, when you're watching them, when
I like
when
the first one. What was his name? Oh man, my mind just went blank.
Oh, and it had
Bruce. No, what's his name? Oh, duh.
Bruce Wayne.
Bruce Wayne, yeah. Keaton. Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton.
That one was good.
He was fantastic.
Well, Hayden, weren't you telling me something that Michael Keaton originally got cast for a different character?
They were originally casting him as the Joker, but he had just done Beetlejuice.
Okay.
And they didn't. And he would have basically come off as the exact same character, and they didn't really want that, so they made him Batman instead. I think he would have made an amazing. Like, look at him, Beetlejuice. He would have made an amazing Joker. Would have been awesome.
He's in the new RoboCop. Michael Keaton, yeah. I was surprised too. I was shocked too. Yeah, he's not. He doesn't play RoboCop.
Did you see the movie?
No, I saw the preview.
Oh, is it out? Is it even out yet?
No, not yet.
All right. Any more books, Jen?
Yep. I also read, speaking of Charlene Harris, I read After Dead, which was a sneaky ploy to get you to buy another book after the series ended.
But I quite happily gave her my money.
Read the whole thing.
I had no regrets.
Yeah.
I haven't read it. Why haven't I read that yet?
I don't know.
It's just like a short little blurb on what she says is the final chapter on all of the characters from her book. They're all in alphabetical order.
I feel like she left Quinn open, so I would hope there's a series there.
Yeah, she said it to me, and we're like BFFs now.
You know who else is open?
Remember, she was like, "You'll see Quinn again."
Hunter is open.
Okay.
Hunter, yeah.
Okay.
He said that he had many adventures.
Yes.
And there was a couple of others. Oh, Suki's kids are open.
Okay.
So
She had what, like 4 with Sam?
So, yeah, something like that. And they were, I think, kind of close with Hunter. So I'm thinking she might stay in the same universe, but just not deal with those characters.
Okay.
So I'm fine with.
Yeah.
I am okay with
happy about it. I read the Justin Cronin books, The Passage and the 12, which I really, really liked. The last one's coming out this year.
Yes.
Shout out to our friend Justin Cronin, because we're besties too.
Mm-hmm.
And then I read, there was another series I found randomly on Amazon, the Hangman's Daughter series.
Mm-hmm.
Oliver Potch, which was really interesting. It takes place in, I think, the 1600s. And it's about, they're sort of, I feel like they're like Sherlock Holmes, the Sherlock Holmes of the 1600s, where they're using, actual
forensic
scientific, forensic scientific, evidence to determine the cause of things.
In the 1600s?
Yeah, because it was actual knowledge that was available at the time. People just didn't really trust. They didn't no, we have to bleed you out. Sorry.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting series. I recommend that. And then my last one I listened to was Heft by Liz Moore. And it was about this guy, I don't know if I told you guys about it. It was about this guy who's severely obese. So obese I think he can leave the house, but he won't. But that's how he measures himself, if he can fit through the door. But he lies, he orders stuff all the time. He lies about having a family and everything just so people don't, So that was really, it was really interesting. And then, something of course happens where he has to face facts. So that was a really interesting one too. That's it. That's what I read this year. Except for my favorites we'll discuss later.
So our special guest
today
is Hayden.
What book?
The what book? So he has. Do you want to go through your favorites or?
Well, I only got to read 5 things this year, so I can't talk about what I read without it being on my favorites list.
By default.
Oh, we could start
By
off
default.
favorites.
Yeah. You can start off the favorites.
That's great.
Okay, so
Special guest starting off the best of 2013.
So I didn't get a lot of time to read a whole lot of books this year,
So you should
and most of my list is actually comprised
I'm
of
sure it's all quality.
short stories. So I'll start out with number 5 and go up to number 1. Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson, which is kind of a classic. It's almost like a kid's book, pretty much. About pirates and swashbuckling, and it was okay. It wouldn't be on my number 5 if I'd read something else, probably.
Yeah, 6 books, it would go down.
Yeah, the beginning was really good, and then once they actually get to Treasure Island, it kind of gets boring.
Why did you read it? I mean, what?
I thought it would be fun. I don't know. I was playing a pirate video game at the time.
Oh, okay.
So, Assassin's Creed. And I was like, hey, I should read a pirate book. And it was free, because it's like one of those, classic, what is, they don't have no one has the rights to it.
The copyright anymore. That's one of the best things that's come out from online or digital books is now all of these books that are 75 years old and older are, if they've put it in print and digital, it's free. Like Shakespeare and all of my Christie books.
Three Musketeers and Alice in Wonderland and stuff like that.
And all those.
So it was okay. It was kind of interesting. Some of the characters were pretty good. Long John Silver was a pretty interesting guy. You read it too.
Yeah, I love
Long John Silver. I've never read it. There's a character, Long John Silver.
Yeah, I know, right?
I
love
now
it when
just
that
figured
happens.
out that that's what
It's
the
like,
restaurant.
wait, doesn't he have a secret?
He's easily the most interesting character.
Was he was he a chef?
He was the chef on the boat.
Okay, so I guess that's the tie-in. Yeah, I was really
That
mad
makes
by the
total
mom.
sense. And he actually owned, at the beginning of the book, he owns a restaurant.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Not called Long John Silver's.
that would have been awesome.
So number 4. So like I said, a lot of my stuff is like short stories. So I downloaded all of the H.P. Lovecraft's stories, which ends up being like 100 different little short stories. So various of those. I don't really remember any of the titles except Call of Cthulhu, which I read, and I don't really remember that well because it was like the very, very beginning of the year, or actually maybe even last year. I don't know. They're okay. They're kind of like this weird psychological, supernatural horror. I need to read more of them. I only read like 2, and they were okay. I think they probably get better.
I've heard of him because I think like Stephen King, like all of my favorite authors have like said that he was a big.
Yeah, he's. Yeah. I mean, he's a huge horror guy. I mean, anyone who writes horror now generally, at least credits him with some sort of influence in a way. Number 3, also from another very famous horror author, Stephen King, out of his Skeleton Crew collection, Cain Rose Up, which is a really, really short story. It's like maybe 5 pages long or something like that. But it's about a kid in college, and I think the semester had just ended, so everyone was cleaning out the dorm, and then he ends up shooting a bunch of kids. And it's like, it's intense. And it was written before, you know, like any of the school shootings happened, so it's just interesting to read something that took place before, like Columbine or anything like that.
I mean, I've not read it, but does it actually kind of touch on some of the things that people expect from, or think that come from people who are, you know, the real shooters that they see in like Columbine and these other places?
No, because it's so short. There's like almost no build up to what happens. So like at the very beginning, all the guy does, he's having like he's coming back, and then someone kind of like gives him, you know, a little guff or whatever. They're picking on him a little bit, and then, but not much, you know, it's just kind of playful. And then he just goes into his dorm, and then his roommate's like cleaning out, and he's just kind of thinking about like this poster on the wall that's like I think it's a famous cowboy or something like that. His roommate he says goodbye to his roommate, and then he just looks out the window and he basically just starts opening fire.
Wow.
So not really, like, it doesn't really explain like why he does it or anything. He just kind of does it, and he seems he is not like a very interesting character at all. Like, he's just kind of mechanical through the whole thing. People talk to him, and all the characters around him have a lot of personality. He's just kind of like a machine. He's like, yeah, basically.
Interesting.
It's cool. It's interesting. It's not a very happy book, but
Stephen King doesn't do happy though.
Yeah.
Even his like more upbeat ones. I think I read it was in those 4 short stories that I gave you that you couldn't even get past the first one. But one of them was like it's supposed to be kind of like a dark comedy, but literally it was just a bunch of people who were just horrible.
Yeah.
And the most horrible person in the whole book, nothing bad ever happened to him. So. But I think that's just Stephen King. He just kind of delves into that.
Yeah.
And I had started to read The Fog from that same one, but Lisa spoiled the ending for me.
We saw the movie together.
I was years ago, and I forgot about it, so.
The Fog. Another one where Stephen King actually liked the movie, and he liked what they did to it better than what he felt that they improved his ending.
See, the movie could be different than the book.
Whatever, I'm not going to read it now. A lot of people said the movie was terrible, and I actually kind of liked the movie, so.
I think I liked it. Was it a miniseries?
No, it was a movie. It had someone famous, like Matt Damon or...
Oh.
No.
Was it that long? Was it? I thought it was
not Matt Damon. Who was it? Wahlberg.
No.
I don't know.
No, it was that guy that's in the
seen
Stephen King movies. He's also in Wings, I think.
What?
I don't know.
I swear to God, it was Mark Wahlberg. Anyways, you can.
We will find out.
Fact check that. Internet.
Fact check.
Internet people. Okay, so that's number 3. I did read some other short stories out of that same The Skeleton Crew book, but they were okay. Nothing really stuck with me that much. Not as much as Cain Rose Up. Number 2 would be another collection of short stories done by Robert Howard, who is famous for creating Conan the Barbarian, which was all written in like the 30s and 40s. And so the 2 that I ended up reading this year was The God in the Bowl and Tower of the Elephant. And they just happen to be right next to each other in the book because I read them in a row. But they're really good because he's often credited for like kind of creating the sword and sorcery genre of you know, like barbarians and wizards and not completely, but he gets a lot of that. And Conan's kind of this, you know, he's this badass anti-hero. He's not a nice guy. He's kind of a jerk. he takes what he wants, and if anyone gives him any crap, he just kills them, which is kind of awesome. And no matter what, he always comes out alive at the end. Maybe not this valorous hero or anything, but he comes out ahead. And number 1 on my list, I read 1984 by George Orwell.
That's number 1 on your list?
Yeah.
Like, this is a best of list, right?
Yeah, it was the best book I read this year. It was like one of the 2 actual full books.
I thought it scarred you.
It didn't scar me, but it was an interesting book, and it stuck with me for a while. The last chapter is horrible in like this very depressing kind of way, and it definitely stuck with me for a while, but I don't ever want to read it again. I would never go back and read that book again. One time is good enough. It's very depressing and
well, I don't feel bad because I feel like I read it. I know I read it, and I started trying to read it again recently because I read it in high school, which was a long time ago. And then I tried to read it again recently, and I was just like, it just feels like work. I already read this. Done. One and done.
Well, yeah. Yeah, but there's some books that you can come back and read that are still good. Mm-hmm. That's not one of them. One time is good. Mm-hmm. So that's my top 5 books and pretty much everything I've read this year.
All right. I think that's a good list, though.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good list. All right. My turn? All right.
Your turn.
So the first one I want, these are in no particular order. Mm-hmm. The first one, I think I talked about in one of our reading series. It's called Crazy Rich Asians.
Oh, yes.
And I need somebody else to read this book. I really do. It is hilarious. The whole title tells you everything you need to know about what this is about. It's about these filthy, rich, crazy Asians. I wrote down the best way to describe this is rich people behaving badly. It's like Dallas, but it's based in like Hong Kong and Singapore area. So that's basically it. It's really hilarious. There's no hidden meaning in it. It's just fun. The next one, again, this is in no particular order. It's probably be number 1, is The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman.
Marcy hearts him.
Yes, I loved it. Every book I've read, I've loved. They're just my favorite type of book.
Yeah.
All right, so The Ocean at the End of the Lane, highly recommended.
I second that. I liked it.
Yes. Another one is called Frostburn by Patricia Briggs. So I decided to sneak kind of a romantical book in there. It's not romance. It's called urban fantasy, but they all kind of changed the name.
What's urban fantasy mean? It's in a city?
It's like Charlene Harris. It's urban fantasy. Okay. So it's not like wizards and things like that. So it's this, I don't know, she's like a shapeshifter and there's werewolves, whatever. It's like the 6th in the series, but every book, they're solid. That she does what she's supposed to do. It's a great story, and I recommend it. The next I just read, it's The Golem and the Genie, and it's actually my pick for the next book club. And I really loved it. It was just so different. It wasn't what I expected. It's I guess a fantasy book about a golem, which is based in Jewish mythology, and it's just a clay person made out of clay, and they're pretty much enslaved to someone to do, a master to do their work. And then a genie, what a genie is, it's Middle Eastern mythology. But in this book, this is based in like the late 19th century New York, and both of these kind of creatures end up coming to New York as immigrants, kind of like Ellis Island type of, well, it was Ellis Island. And they kind of meet each other, and of course it goes through, the story based on what they are and their history as these magical creatures, but it also is just a historical novel about what it was like to be in the city at that time, and it's just fantastic. It's usually the reason I read it. I hated the title when I first saw it because I thought it sounded kind of stupid, The Golem and the Genie. But once I read the book, I thought it was the perfect title, and that's why I picked it for the book club. So I hope everybody
that book's
it.
blowing up right now.
Yeah. It's usually on, the reason I finally read it was because it's been on a lot of Bestof2013 lists.
Yeah, I've seen it on some.
And FYI, the author, she retweeted one of our tweets and favorited it.
Yes.
It's exciting.
And the next, The Cuckoo's Calling by, I think it's Robert Galbraith, but it's really J.K. Rowling. She was outed by her lawyer in a really horrible, stupid way.
Didn't that book sell horribly?
No.
I heard it didn't sell
Both of her books, her new books, her adult books, I think are bestsellers.
Oh, really?
But they're
well,
not.
Now that everyone knows her pen name.
Yes, but I thought it was great. I mean, it's not Wizards. It's not.
We were talking about this today. Like, I would feel, what do you think that best friend feels like? So the guy tells his wife, I get that. Then the wife tells her BFF, I get that.
So we need to describe how it got out.
Okay.
The lawyer that worked for the publishing company told his wife, hey, Robert Galbraith is really J.K. Rowling. And then she told her friend, and her friend then tweeted the New York Times or one of the newspapers, and that's how it got out. And he got fined.
Like,
if I was the husband,
$1,600.
I would immediately come home with that fine and hand it to her. You need to pay this. But he's a lawyer. He's supposed to keep things secret. He should know.
Yeah.
Now, I bet you he doesn't work for them much longer, because with lawyers, as soon as you're deemed someone who can't keep secrets,
he definitely, that was not good. But I love the book. It's a straight up whodunit. It's got the down and out PI and the plucky assistant. You know, so it's kind of a tried and true type of genre and hook, but I just thought it was great. And I've never read any of the Harry Potters, but if the writing is anything like this, I will be reading them now.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm always surprised when you say that. I know you haven't, but I'm always
but it's because it's the same, for the same reason you said that you didn't, it took you a long time to read Divergent. Everybody was so hyped up on...
Marcy. I mean, really, how long are you going to wait? It's the last movie came out when? 2 years ago?
We'll see.
Last book came out like 7 years ago?
We shall see.
2005, yeah.
And the last one, this is 6, so it's not like I couldn't condense them down to 5, was called Saving Grace by Lee Smith. This is one of our book club suggestions. And
shout out to Elliot.
This I would have never picked this book up. It's, what do they call it? Southern fiction. There's like a specific.
Is there?
Yeah, but it's just about this, this group of people. Whether they're snake charmers, they're very religious, deeply religious, and it's about this one girl who really just it just follows her life as all of these different events start happening to her in her family. You know, with all of these. You know, I'm describing this really, really bad, so feel free to jump in at any time.
I think that's it. I mean, she's in the South. All these terrible things happen to her. Dad's the snake where they pull the snakes.
Preachers, yes.
Yeah, and
all the way through
happens.
Adulthood.
Crazy stuff happens.
I loved it.
Yeah,
they're like they live backwoods, like they live out of a car, and they have the kindness of other people.
And her dad's he's one of those guys who preaches the good word, and then he goes and does what he does.
Right, exactly.
And then he's like, wait a minute, I'm sorry, I'm saved. I was just kidding.
Yeah.
On to a new town.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just loved it. I loved the heroine. I loved her, you know, from the moment that she first started speaking in the book all the way to the very end. You know, I just thought she was just very clear-eyed. Her character was always honest, and I just liked it. I know you didn't like her that much. There was a couple of things.
I did not like her.
She wasn't good all the way through.
She left her daughters. I didn't get that. For a man.
After what her husband did, I totally get it. You know, dude is going to get... Should I... Okay, so this is... Spoiler alert. If your husband, after you have your relations, not only do you not have them very often, but when you do, he then pulls you out of the bed and you begin to pray over the sin that you have just done. I'm thinking, you know, I kind of understand why she had an affair. I kind of get it.
I get the affair. I get the affair, but I don't get saying, I'm going to choose you, man, that I've slept with a few times over my kids. And peace out, kids.
But she never, and this is why I liked her. This is why, I mean, that was bad. She never tried to justify it. She never did. And she was like, this is my life, good and bad. I'm going to put this out there. And that's why I liked it. I loved it. All right, so that's it for all of my books. Crazy Rich Asians, The Ocean at the End of the Lane, Frostburned, The Golem and the Genie, The Cuckoo's Calling, and finally Saving Grace.
All right.
My list is so different. So before I start my best of, there is a worst of for me. And I was so disappointed in this book. It was Inferno. And
I've heard this.
I dig Dan Brown so
Oh,
much.
me too.
I love his stuff. I think he's a great thriller writer. He's great at historical fiction. And Inferno didn't make sense to me. The plot was weird. And it was so, like, in the other books, Robert Langdon, you can kind of believe that he, can come up with, figuring something out here and there. And in this one, it's just like, there is no freaking way. I mean, the only other thing I could compare to is is it Da Vinci Code, where they take the helicopter that takes them all the way to Europe in like 4 hours. Okay, if you can give him that, the rest of the book was great. It was like this book was full of that. And it was just totally unbelievable. I couldn't get into it. And in the end, I was like, I don't understand what's happening here.
I totally forgot that I bought that book and I read about half of it and just gave up on it.
Yeah, it's
I
so
quit.
crazy.
I was like, this is not good.
And I like Dan Brown so much, I was just so disappointed. I had to give a worst of when I was going through this thing.
That's
Definitely
always
worst of for
disappointing
me.
when an author you love disappoints you.
Yeah. And I feel like the story had promise, and I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. Okay, so, sorry, Dan Brown. We still
Better
like
luck
you.
next time.
Please write another book so I can cleanse my palate.
Well, maybe he needs to get out of that little genre. Maybe he can't.
Yeah.
He just doesn't have any ideas. That's what's the nice thing about what J.K. Rowling. Maybe she was like, I just can't think of another dang Harry Potter thing. I'm done. I can't do it.
Right.
So she's just like, okay, let me just do something different so she can stay fresh. Sometimes you just can't come up with something else.
Yeah.
That's why I stopped reading John Grisham. I love John Grisham. I ate up John Grisham books. If I like an author, I will read everything. And then it just got to be like, it's the same thing. It's the same formula.
Be in the
He's got a
courtroom
formula.
again. Yeah.
Same formula. And I was like,
I was just talking
Done.
about this. I was reading Sue Grafton.
oh, okay.
A is for alibi. B is for probably burglar.
M is for
C,
murder.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think I got up to like L.
I want to see, what is X?
I can't remember. Let's look at it. I think she's like up in her final one. So that's a good,
Yeah.
10. I don't know how many what L is. It's up there.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it anymore because it really was the formula. And it's not that they were bad, but, sometimes you just kind of get a little bored with it.
So, we were talking about, I was in this group and we were talking about the formula. And there's actually a specific formula that you can buy and you write to it. And if you write here and it says at page 46, this is when the main character needs to have something tragic happen in their life. And at page 127, and it gets you to the 275-page novel. It's exact formula. And once you know the formula, you can go back and read like bestsellers. And you're like, oh my God, it's like following this formula. And they attribute it a lot to authors who are just turning out books over and over and over again. Okay, so let's move on to wait. What is it?
She's on W is for wasted.
She's almost done.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Y-N-T.
I'm
V
gonna
is
guess-
for vengeance is
V is for vengeance. I'm going to guess X is
available
for
in paperback.
Xylophone. What else would it be for?
X-ray.
xenophobe.
Okay.
X-ray. I think X-ray is going to be it.
Oh, okay.
X is for...
G?
Xenophobe's good.
Right? I think there's another book with that in the title. Genocide. No, Xenocide.
Xenocide.
Yeah.
We shall see.
That's all I
Jennifer
got.
looks very proud for her. I know you can't see
I
it, but
remember
for her
the
coming
word
up
with
with
the
that.
That's where it takes more effort to think of the title than it does. Than it does to write the book.
All right, so
that.
my top 5. I kind of put these in order, but I feel like I loved all of these books. And there are ones that didn't make it to the list, which made me sad. But we've kind of talked about some of them. So my number 5 is Truth and Beauty. Because I'm not a memoir reader. And now that I'm kind of being more introduced in a memoir, I love the idea of Anne Patchett writing a book about her friendship with this other girl who is famous for writing a book about the horrible things that happened to her and just kind of like being able to retell the story in a completely different way. And then I just got totally caught up in like the voyeurism of it. Because then there's Anne Patchett's book, and then after that was published, they reprinted Lucy Greeley's book after her death with like a excerpt or an afterword by Anne Patchett, which is terrible because for anyone who's read the books, Lucy Greeley writes exactly what she wants to write, exactly how she writes it. So probably spinning in her grave to have one of her friends write an afterword, like sum up and end her book for her. And then the Lucy Greeley's sister is pissed that Anne Patchett wrote this book thinking she's capitalizing on her sister's death and writes this article that gets published like widely about not being able to grieve for her sister because this other book's being put out. And it turned into this whole thing. And it's, I don't know what it is, but I feel like it could be a reality show or something like that. I really liked it, and I could not stop reading it. And luckily, the sister, Lucy Greeley's sister, not a very good writer. So there's lots of things to pick apart about her. While she picks apart, you know, I think of the group, I like Anne Patchett's book the best. And she's actually a fiction writer. She wrote fiction books before that and then came back and wrote this memoir. So Truth and Beauty is on my list because it's a good book, but it also opened my eyes to like what a memoir can be. Mm-hmm. And I know if anyone who's listened to the memoir Bookcast might think I hate them. So
might think all of us hate them.
Right. But
I liked a few.
My mind has been changed.
Okay.
All right, number 4 was a recommendation by Marcy and Jennifer, Good Omens. Never read it. Loved it. I thought it was fun. I actually listened to it on Audible, and the reading was done really well. The only thing I had a problem with, which I have a problem with all the time with Audible, is I feel like when the book is trying to stop you from like understanding what's going on and it switches topics, I feel like I missed something, so I like go back and I'm listening and forward, and I feel like I get lost a little bit. My car's really stupid. It like turns Audible on right away, and so sometimes like it's just playing in the car and I don't know it's playing because I have the radio on instead. So outside of malfunctions for Audible, I just really liked that book. I thought it was really fun and interesting, and I loved the footnotes. The footnotes were the best. I felt like the footnotes maybe there could have been more, but I liked how subtle they were. And how the characters, like the angel and the what is he? He's also kind of an angel. The
a fallen
demon
angel.
or whatever he is,
archangels.
right? I liked how they kind of had this like back and forth banter, and it really made me think it was like Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, like having this back and forth banter. So it was cool. I really liked that book. Number 3 for me, and this is hard because it's definitely got to be in my top 3, but I wasn't sure where to put it, was Hyperbole and a Half. Another memoir, but it's a collection of short essays, but it is so hilarious. It's by Allie Brosh. These little essays are so funny. They're just, it's a collection, and the book is actually printed very cool. Like, it's not regular paper. It's kind of like thicker paper, and it's colored by a particular essay. She'll write a story about, she wrote a letter to herself as an older kid. So her like 6-year-old self wrote her, I don't know, 10-year-old self a letter or something like that. But what's funny about what Allie does is she draws like maybe what the characters in the story are doing, and she's terrible. Or it's terrible on purpose, I don't know. But it's with paint, I'm sure. And the characters are drawn ridiculously. And there's this one where, I think 6-year-old self. And she writes her future self a letter. And she's like, "Hi, my name's Allie. I have blonde hair, blue eyes, and I like dogs a lot." And she goes into all these specifics. And then she goes, "So let's pause here. I'm a little worried about why my 6-year-old self didn't think I knew what I looked like." And so she starts talking about stuff like that. And then in that letter, she goes in and she talks about all of her, like, these are my 3 favorite dogs, top 3 dogs. A German Shepherd, and she goes on and and then at the end of the 3 dogs, she goes, "Oh, and how's mom and dad?" and whatever. And she's like, "Another thing, I am concerned about my order of importance here. Did I really care so much? If I had a dog, were dogs more important than my family?" So it's so funny. And Allie Brosh herself's like, she's gone through this depression and whatever. And she does talk about it in some of the stories, but she talks about it in this really kind of like sad but funny way, and it's done with all this cartooning in there, and I just really liked it. It was so funny. I would like lay in bed reading it, and I would just be laughing, and I just started reading. You can read like an excerpt on Amazon. You can read almost the whole first essay on Amazon out of the book, and I was laughing so loud at work that I passed the point where you care that you're laughing at work because other people are coming in and asking what's funny, and so you're sharing with them and letting them read along. But yeah, it's really good. So Hyperbole and a Half. Definitely read it.
All right, I'm going to add it. I'm going to write it down.
Okay, so my next book, number 2, would be Dr. Sleep. So it was a dark horse, last minute. I grabbed it because I had some projects I had to finish for Christmas presents, and I just wanted to drown out the sound around me. And I'm so excited because I just love Stephen King. I love reading his stuff. And this Dr. Sleep, if you don't know, is the sequel to The Shining. And it follows Danny Torrance, who's the little boy in The Shining, as an adult. And he still has The Shining, and he meets other people with it. And just kind of how he's kind of becoming an alcoholic. He became an alcoholic like his dad, and how he's trying to, I don't know, deal with it while he meets other people. And then they take on the True Knot, which is this group of, I don't think they're humans, but, whatever. So I don't want to tell you the end of the story or most of the parts of the story, because I think with Stephen King, you just got to read it. You got to go in full force and read it, and just let him take you where he's going to take you, and just give him some time. And I really like the story. The only problem I had with it, I felt like the climax happened really fast. When there was all this build up, and then it happened, and then it was over. I felt like it was a little fast. So then I kept going back to the Audible. Did I miss a chapter? What's going on? But I think that's how it was. But I really like that story. Hooray! An old school Stephen King book. Yeah. I'm so excited. And then my number 1 this year, I read Ender's Game and Ender's Shadow. And I just could not be happier with the 2 of those books. Yeah. So Hayden recommended it to me. Jennifer recommended it to me. I could not put Ender's Game down, and Ender's Shadow was the same way. Like, as soon as I was done, I read Ender's Shadow, and now I have the Ender's Shadow series. I got that for Christmas, and so I'm so excited. I love the books. I love the story. I just dig Orson Scott Card.
Yeah.
He's good, and he's one, I'm still reading, I'm reading his new stuff now. And that was End of Shadows was written 30 years ago, and I think just to be able to be that creative, for that long, I think it's really just kind of amazing.
Like I just read, I think it was this year, I don't know, the Mithramage series.
Right. I'm reading the other one,
The Lost Gate and the Gate Thief. So good. I'll probably read anything that guy writes.
Yeah,
I'll probably read it.
Yeah.
Not everything. I read it was based on a video game called Shadow Complex, and he wrote it. I think he wrote it for the game. I'm not sure, but it was terrible.
Really?
It was about this kind of set in like near future, like really near, like tomorrow maybe, and it was about the government in some terrorist attack, and it was like, if anyone has any idea about how the military works or actual army works, like, it was just ridiculous, like what these dudes were doing. And so he should stick to sci-fi,
right?
And not anything that has to do with like the real world,
right?
Because it was bad. I got about maybe 50, 100 pages, and I was like, I'm not reading this anymore.
We're actually all related to I think we've all been in the military. All 4 of us. That's one thing that I have a difficulty with is watching any type of military shows. Because if they mess it up, I'm not happy. You cannot look. Their hat is tilted a little bit to the right. That is totally unacceptable. It needs to be straight, blah, 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 or something. Or
the girls' hair in any military show makes me crazy. I'm like, you can't have skunk streaks. No, you can't do that.
That's too long. I don't care if it's a short. I know it's a short bob, but it's below the collar. Absolutely unacceptable. Yeah. Or why are they always allowed to walk inside with their hats on?
Right?
Saluting irritates me.
Saluting inside.
No, saluting at all. They always salute weirdly.
They,
I'm like,
they
what
usually have
are
their
you
hands
doing?
too far
You know
over their
how
forehead.
often I got yelled at in basic training
I
because
think-
I wasn't saluting right?
Because you watched it on TV too much.
Right? I think that what they should do, if any actor, if they really feel like they're an actor, maybe a method actor or whatever, they should have a basic training for actors.
That's a great idea.
We'll be the drill sergeants, or they'll have
We're
drill
gonna put it
sergeants
out
there, running through it, any military movie.
Yes, they'll be able to march.
Yep.
They'll be able to do everything.
It's probably got to be run like OCS, though, because, they need a little light handling once in a while.
I think they should go through the real one. They should do the real one. Because you can't be touched anymore.
Yeah.
They can't touch you. And they're not even really swearing at you. They're not using real cuss words.
No,
They're just...
Mine did. The Army did, that's for sure.
The Air Force, they couldn't use actual real cuss words, but the stuff that they came up instead of that was actually really kind of bad.
Yeah.
I still remember the guy whose collar was kind of up, and they called him Elvis, and every time they saw him in public, he had to actually stop and sing an Elvis song.
I just know every time I stand up and I'm still chewing, I still oh wait. No, it's okay. I can walk and chew. It's okay. Yeah, I get yelled at for that.
Yeah, actors should go through basic training. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
So those are my top 5. Ender's Game, Ender Shadow, Dr. Sleep, Hyperbole and a Half, Good Omens, and Truth and Beauty.
Okay.
All right. I think that's great. And we're going to post these up on Goodreads and make sure that's out there for people to actually read and read these through 2014.
Mm-hmm.
So Jennifer's next. Jennifer.
So it's not on my list and I didn't even think about it until you were talking about Stephen King, but I did love, and I don't think I read Under the Dome this year, but I did just watch the series on CBS and I loved it. And I loved the book. The book was really good and it was to me, it was very classic Stephen King where it was very character focused and it was very what happens when you put all these people in this situation? It was so good, and I love the series. So I'm going to put that out there. It's not on my list, because I don't think I read it this year. But this is my list, and it's in no particular order. So I read... So Sweet Valley High, Sweet Valley Twins, Sweet Valley whatever, I was very into. That was my first... I went from Berenstain Bears to Sweet Valley books. And I lost that. I felt like I was kind of too old for it. So then I moved on to Stephen King. So I haven't read Sweet Valley High since I don't know. It's been a long time. But Lisa brought me books from
I scored
somewhere.
Them.
Yes.
In my daughter's school, they had a free box giveaway of books. Yeah. They had I should have just grabbed the whole series for you. I don't know why I just grabbed 5.
Gave them all away. Yeah. Okay. So Francine Pascal wrote a book that takes place 10 years after the Sweet Valley High books. So it's what happens, what are the twins up to 10 years later? So I was like, you know what? I want to read it now. I'm going to read that. So I did. Yeah, the twins when they're 30. And it's so ridiculous. And I love that she's always every other page is somehow relates back to one of the books, one of the Sweet Valley High books. So it's oh, that's Becky. And do you remember how her boyfriend beat her? And then he tried to kill her, and now he's in prison? Well, that's Becky. And, and it's so ridiculous. And I'm what was I reading when I was that young? That's crazy, but I love it. And then, so she wrote that, and then she wrote, now there's a serial, teeny tiny novels. There's 6 of them. I've got to finish them, but it takes place after that. And it's a completely ridiculous premise. And I love it. I just love it. So I'm putting that on my top 5 list. The Sweet Valley High new books. But I'll put the old ones in there too, because you know what? They're good too.
Yeah.
Alright, so my next one is Jocelyn Jackson as an author, because I read one of her books, I listened to it, Backseat Saints. And I loved it so much that I just wanted to read or listen to everything else that she had. And she reads her own books too, the audio version.
That's so
which I
cool
love.
when they do that.
So that's always fun. So she does that. So I listened to a few, I read a few. I still have 2 more I think to read, but I love her. She's great. They take place in the South, and it's always got a really strong female lead and who goes through something. She doesn't have the best, like, family life, and she's got to somehow, she tries to get away from the family, and then somehow they keep pulling her back in, and it always resolves itself. But they're great. I love those. So I'm going to put all of her books. In general, just Jocelyn Jackson. Let's see, I read Backseat Saints, Between Georgia, The Girl Who Stopped Swimming, Guys in Alabama, A Grown Up Kind of Pretty. Those are the ones I read so far. Life After Life by Kate Atkinson was a good one. I think that was one of our book club books.
It wasn't a book club. It was.
Oh, it wasn't?
It was Tanya, a special guest to our Bookcast, actually suggested that.
It's also the winner, the Goodreads winner 2013 for historical fiction.
Oh, okay. It was very interesting.
Is it the one where she keeps dying?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, she keeps dying every time. She dies differently, goes back to the beginning, and then somehow, for whatever reason, remembers that time that doesn't really remember that time that she died, but remembered like, oh wait, I shouldn't go down that alley for some reason, so I'm going to do something different this time. And then, so it's very interesting to like see the timeline, like what little change you make in your life and how that affects your whole life.
All right, hold on. I have a spoiler alert for anyone who wants to read this book.
Mm-hmm.
Does she die in the end?
Yeah. That's
like,
what
finally,
pissed me off. Yeah.
She finally dies.
Yeah.
But she can't live forever.
Why not? There's one book on my list where he does live forever.
All right. I just want to say, I don't know. You guys do not know this, but I am really, really... So you said the spoiler alert, and then before I could actually leave the room, said it because I really wanted to read the book. Thank you.
But it's so good. She dies so much. You're just like,
she's
oh,
a
it's
human.
another.
She's gotta die.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the book has no more pages.
Yeah, I was sad. I was like, oh, okay. No, that's it. She's really dead this time. So, but it was really good. And somehow it involved Hitler. I read a lot of books about Hitler this year. I don't know why. What that's all about, but Hitler was involved.
It's also a popular subject, like cancer.
Yeah, I know. That's true. But I really liked that one. That was really interesting. It was different. It was very different. So I haven't finished The Maze Runner yet, but I'm adding that to my list because
you can't. It's 2014 and you're reading it right now.
But what if I started it the 31st?
Finish it.
Of December.
No.
All right, fine.
Something to talk about next year.
So then my last one is Salt, Sugar, Fat by Michael Moss. It's Salt, Sugar, Fat. So it's a true story. It's kind of like, no, it's about the processed food industry. And this guy goes and he like talks about processed food practices, and he talks to people involved in it and tells you what's going on, and it's very disturbing.
Is this the guy who did the McDonald's thing?
No. That was, I like him. No, different guy.
Okay.
I forget who that guy was. Michael Moss is this guy. That was a really good one. That was one of the first, I think that may have been, one of the first audiobooks I listened to. And I don't really like nonfiction audiobooks. I don't really like nonfiction. But this one was very interesting, and you find lots of just interesting facts about the processed food industry, and like the people who own it are like, I don't feed that to my kids. They don't eat Lunchables. Are you crazy? So that's kind of well, they did tons of studies, and they were like, kids like to make their own food, and this is what they love, and that's why kids love them, because they studied kids.
Yep. I mean, they did. Yeah. I feel better that instead of getting the prepackaged Lunchable, I make my own.
Yeah.
With the same crap.
Yeah.
Pepperoni.
Right.
And you can
crackers.
get them cut up already too.
Yeah.
And it's like a quarter of the price.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the only thing I don't like about Lunchables is that they're so overpriced, where you can literally just
It's cheese, meat, and crackers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like $5 a box. Come on.
Exactly.
It's that packaging.
Cheese in them too.
Right. Actually, these are the only ones that we never did the cheese, meat, and crackers, but the little pizzas that you can make, he liked those.
Yeah.
He loved those.
Yeah.
But again, that's pretty easy to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of these
It's
were
just
like
grated cheese on top of a piece of bread with some
I don't even do
sauce,
that.
which is
Kinda disgusting.
nasty as all get out because it's all cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, they
they-
eat it cold.
Well, they go through a lot of like my favorite foods as a child, like Pop-Tarts are in there, and I'm like, oh.
Don't you talk bad about Pop-Tarts.
Right? I did. They're still delicious. Yeah, it was very interesting and eye-opening. I recommend it. Salt, Sugar, Fat.
All right. Well, I like to, when I determine what my eating habits are, what I'm going to eat, the first thing I think of is ignorance is bliss. I don't really want to know where it came from. I don't want to know how it was made. I don't want to know anything like that because I really, really like what's being put in front of me, and I don't want it to change in any way, shape, or form.
It reminds me of that scene in A Christmas Story where, the Bumpus Hounds, they eat the turkey for Christmas Day, so they have to have Christmas at a Chinese restaurant, and they go and they have duck because they don't have turkey there, and then he comes out and like the duck is cooked perfectly and the head is like up, and he's like, and the family, they see the head and the wife screams and the kids start laughing, and the server, he's like, do you like it? Do you like it? And he's like, well, it looks nice, but it's smiling at me. It's like, I don't want that. I'll eat whatever as long as it's already packaged.
Yeah.
I don't want it smiling at me. I don't want to pull meat off a pig while it's where I can see its face with an apple in its mouth.
That's true.
I'll eat the pig if someone else picks it for me, but I don't want to
cut it out.
I don't want to look at their face.
I don't want to be shaped in any way like natural in any way, shape, or form. I don't want it to.
The only thing I don't care about is a chicken.
Yeah, I can eat a chicken in its natural form.
Even like beer can chicken, where it's literally hanging out there with its wings kind of hanging out. It's
I've
fine.
never had beer can chicken.
That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Other than that,
I still like a fish in a fillet. I don't want to see the eyeballs. Or the bones.
So I'm excited that we are getting back on track with 2014. With our podcast. I think Marcy is in charge of the schedule. She's got a really good schedule coming up for us. And so we're going to hit the ground running. We're going to post this guy up. Check it out. Make sure you go to our website because we got a whole bunch of stuff on the website now. We have a Goodreads account. You can look at all of the books we're reading or we've read, or you can go and you can look at Marcy's shelf or my shelf or Jennifer's shelf, or you can look at the book club's shelf to see what the book club's reading. Right now, like Marcy said, we're reading Gollum and the Genie for our January book. You can follow us on Twitter. Right now, we've been trying to get as many Twitter followers as we can, and I think right now we're at 70. I'll have to check real quick.
Oh, last time I heard it was like 50.
I know, we broke 50
Double
earlier.
digits.
Wow.
We broke 50 earlier today.
Deuces.
No, we're almost in triple digits. No, we have 68 followers right now.
That's pretty good.
So,
more than 50.
We have Facebook, just everything we could think of to go along with the YouTube channel and Pinterest that you guys already know about. So make sure to check us out. Check out the website, www.whatbookbookclub.com. I'm just excited to be casting again.
Yes,
Me too.
Yeah. So fun.
And thanks so much for Hayden for coming in today and contributing to our bookcast today. So what did you think, Hayden? How do you feel about being a special guest on the bookcast?
You guys read a lot of books.
Jennifer,
I only read 2 actual books in like a bunch of short stories last year, so if I was going to keep up with you guys, I would have to quit my job maybe.
All got priorities.
Yes. No, but I think it doesn't really matter, whether you read, a couple books or whether you read more. I think we just love it, and I think there's something out there for everyone. And even if you don't, watch the movie. Just get out there and just like think. It's really just kind of delving into somebody else's mind and their ideas, and that's kind of fun. That's what I like about it.
It's a good escape.
Yeah.
So thanks so much for listening. We're really excited this year, and we're gonna get on to the next one. Marcy, what's coming up next? Putting Marcy on the spot here.
So, what we can do, we have 2 choices. We can either read a classic, or we can talk about one of our favorite authors. I was thinking about either Orson Scott Card or the Game of Thrones one.
Oh, you can't remember his name.
Martin.
George R.R. Martin.
George Martin. So, okay, we'll make a decision. We'll wait 2 days after the cast. We're going to post the cast. We'll make a decision on Monday. So, make sure if you guys have a preference, feel free to comment, tweet us, let us know. Would you rather hear us talk about a classic or a favorite author? Are we going to talk about our own favorite authors, or are we going to have one that we all talk about?
Yeah, one that we all talk about.
What if I don't like anyone you like?
We can pick whatever. It'll be like what we did with Charlene Harris, where we just talk about their whole, their library.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Thanks for listening. I guess we're going to sign off. I'm Lisa.
Jennifer.
I'm Marcy.
Special guest Hayden, what boy?